Yeah, I'll harass him once more and ask him once more. Okay, now we're live. Now we're live. So don't say anything clandestine and
Oh, I see. Okay.
not
Well,
allowed. So we're here. We're here with Mr. Donald Kent, and it's high
yay!
time. High time we had to chat.
It's high
Good
time,
friends.
indeed, sir. High time.
Yeah,
I
high
can't,
time.
like I was saying earlier, I can't believe it's taken so long. Like I fit right into your content, with the art, philosophy, politics, all of that stuff. You've
Oh,
got
you
a,
definitely do. Yeah,
yeah,
you
your
definitely
your
do.
your set list, so to speak, is incredible. And I
Set
love
list.
the aesthetics of your graphics and your typography. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, thanks. My typography. No one says that to me. Well, thanks. Yeah.
Well, I'm the first. Okay, there you go.
You're the first. Yeah. Well, I mean, we're both. You're working on a graphic novel, and I'm
Indeed.
working on it. I'm working on one now as well right now.
Ooh, okay, I
So
didn't know.
I thought it would be topical and excellent for us to discuss not just that, but like the whole working as illustrators, working as artists thing, because
Most
we're both
excellent.
old hat at that kind of carry on.
Indeed,
And
indeed.
actually, in terms of us connecting, I remember years ago you did ask me to do your show, but at that time I was being a little bitch and I was trying to
Hmm,
not be political or something. And I remember I declined because
hmm.
I had some idea. I forget what was going on at the time. I was trying
I
to be
get.
like I was trying to focus just on art stuff. There's every now and again I've done that. I've given up on it now because I always end up going political again. You can't help it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
like
get it,
my
man. I mean, I respect that a lot. I've had several people that I've interviewed since 2016 that have gotten back to me and said, "Could you please take down that interview?" Like I'm trying to get a
really
new job, or I'm in some kind of danger, or uh,
danger.
yeah. I mean, and people in England specifically, because I cross over
Oh
a
yeah,
lot with the UK audience, and you know how draconian it is over there. So, and then
yeah,
some
yeah,
people
yeah.
actually, they cuck out. I hate to say it, but like they kind of, they dabble in the far right, and then they kind of get scared and run away, which is sad, but whatever.
Is there anyone? And no, you don't want to mention any names,
I
just to get a
can't.
little soap
No,
opera.
I mean, I'm everybody's friend. I don't.
You're everybody's friend.
Yes. Well, except for those who want to kill me, but other than that, yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I'm trying to think of people that came and went. They always seem to resurface again, though. They sort of reinvent themselves
You know,
slightly or something.
the door is always open. That's all I gotta say. You know,
Right.
indeed.
Yeah. So, and how long have you been working on your graphic novel? So, for anybody that doesn't know, Donald Kent is an artist and, I guess right wing artist, we'll call him whatever,
Hmm,
illustrator. What would
hmm.
you call yourself? Would you go like what you do primarily? You do the comic art and the illustration. Is that right? Would you call
You know,
yourself an illustrator?
I think a dissident right artist at the moment is the best term, because I don't just do comics. I do fine art. I'm a singer songwriter, a poet. I content creator here on YouTube and elsewhere. Comics are a passion that I have. I'm a frustrated filmmaker, so comics are films on paper, and I've said that many times on my streams. I do live streams of my current comics project almost every night, and then there's a really really lively chat room where I'm not doing like super chats or making money. It's like a free open chat with our guys, our people, and it's really really a great culture. So I invite everybody to come on over. Fabulous time. But so it's about telling a story. It's about narrative, and this is when I was a kid, I wanted to be a comic book illustrator. That was kind of a dream of mine at, like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old or whatever, and I drew all that stuff. And that's the age. And then once I hit 13, I thought, well, girls won't like guys that do comics. I got to learn guitar now. I'm going
Is
to
that
be a
right?
rock star, grow my hair and get an earring. Yeah. So like then I became rock star Donald for like so many years. And then after that, I became Fine Art Donald, where I went to college. I actually studied in Japan for a year. I did Japanese Oriental landscape painting, along with studying Buddhism, and then
Jesus, I
started.
didn't know that.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
I started off on the martial arts path in kung fu, and gosh, and so then went back to school to become an art teacher, kind of back combining like Eastern and Western art.
Hmm.
So there's a whole period where I was merging those two traditions. It's very
Right.
interesting. You can actually see some samples of that in my book, Imperium Calling: The Art and Poetry of Donald Kent. And then I when I went and lived in Taiwan for 4 years, I taught English over there, and
What?
yeah, as an artist, I would draw a lot on the board to try to teach. Imagine learning Chinese in Chinese. How the hell would you figure that out, right? So I used my art skill to like demonstrate, or rather illustrate ideas and images, whatever. So then I kind of saw, wow, there's a connection here between comics, sort of like sequential art, and teaching. So that kind of got me into this mode of like, okay, what's going on with comics in the education world? I went and became an art teacher, certified art teacher, got my master's degree in what do you call it, in educational technology. I got a
Oh,
grant
Jesus.
to do research and development on this. Even so far as to studying the neurology, like the way that the brain puts words and pictures together in sequence. It's super powerful. It's a very powerful medium. So I was actually one of the pioneers of that back in like, gosh, 2005, 6, 7-ish, like around that time under a different name. Anyway,
Is this before you were politically
yeah.
activated, as it were?
Yes, before it became politically activated. Active duty in the dissident right here. Yes, sir. You know,
The switch was
so
flicked. Your
yeah,
eyes turned red.
right. Right before I got based. But yeah, and I taught in high school, and I taught all ages, etc. But yeah, then I kind of got sorry. Then after coming back from Taiwan, I started. That's when like all the movies started really kicking in and became, comics started going mainstream. And I thought, shit, I can do this, man. I mean, this is like falling off a log. I've already got this massive background in fine art, blah blah blah. But then I learned, well, no, drawing for comics is like learning Russian or something. It's a whole skill set that there's a lot to it,
Oh,
But if you have a love for it, then you meet people, you learn things, you grow, you work, blah blah blah. And it's never really work; it's always play. You know what I'm saying? So like it's a constant, immediate reward. And then
yeah.
there's the challenge of it, which is quite fun. But ultimately, it's a new voice. It's another way to speak to people and reach people, to communicate my ideas, of which I have many. And so I worked in the Comic-Con scene for a while, but I also worked part-time as a caricature artist. And believe it or not, that's actually a career for a lot of people. And so I was able to kind of make good money from that, and blah blah blah, this and that. And then there was this fallout where this Antifa guy attacked me at a Comic Con, and went after the guy who runs the Comic Cons. And so that guy and I were friends for years because we had worked together. I was blah blah blah, a regular client with all that. And so it was the right thing to kind of bow out to help save his business, if you understand. Because you know how Antifa are, they're psychotic, and they're all about destroying people's lives over
They're not
their
as powerful now as they were then, though. They don't have the backing that they had
um,
at that time.
think about the money that is being taken away through Doge and all that US aid stuff that's being sucked dry. And I think all of that finally funnels down. I actually saw, I can't remember if it was an article or a podcast, but it's the news is essentially that all these Antifa cells that have like a food card that they're living off of so that they can, whatever, do what they do, that
Do
just went.
heroin and
Yeah, and now they've got to go out and find jobs and kind of fit back into the society that they were trying to destroy because the money ran out. So,
yeah.
haha. Anyway,
Yeah. I wish them nothing but the worst. Of all the groups of anybody ever, I
some of
wish
the
them nothing but the worst. They are absolute scum of the earth.
karma is a bitch. That's all I have to say. But
Yeah.
anyway, moving on. I don't like focus on that kind of stuff, but that's when Trump versus Hillary 2015-16 rolled around, and then that really
You're getting some loud notifications from that's like quite loud on there. I don't know if you can turn that off.
Sorry, I'll try. I'll try.
Oh no, if you can't, don't worry. Yeah, it's no, don't worry. It's not
I think I might be able to, but I'll juggle
not a
the
big deal. It's okay.
So what's next? So then, once I started recognizing that, this is the new paradigm. This is the new zeitgeist, if you will, of, Trump coming in, all of those things changing. It struck me that, like, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of this. This is exciting. And so that's where I created a webcomic called American Zarathustra. And that was the superhero name. And he literally was that. He basically, like, the opening scene is American Zarathustra at a kind of a movie awards show. and the whole movie awards is filled with the kind of people that we have now, right? All these degenerates. And the superhero comes out and he's got the head of like one of the film directors in his hand, and he says, like, degeneracy stops now. And then he, like, kills all of them in the theater. And I know it's super, super hardcore. And he saves one. There's this one kind of fat, pink-haired journalist that he lets her live, and he says, it's your mission is to go tell the world who I am, and that was as far as I got with that. And somehow the name American Zarathustra sort of got mashed up with me as my brand. So then I became American Zarathustra for a while. And I ran into some tricky stuff that I can't go into regarding that. And then, honestly, what happened is my mom passed away, and I got hit with a period of tragedies in my life. And I sort of had to I had to take a break for at least 2 years, kind of. And I was still kind of here and there, the White Art Collective ran a a fundraiser for me. They had people like Kai Moros and Frody Midjord, White Rabbit Radio, Josh Neal, like most of the top people from White Art Collective. It was hosted by my friend Nullis, runs the poetry show there.
Is he still around? I remember him, Nullis. I haven't seen him for a long time.
Yeah, he's kind of behind the scenes. We're still very close friends. He's doing his own thing with his life. I think he'd like to get back to doing the poetry show. I think sometimes life happens, and you get overwhelmed, and you kind of have to focus on those things. It's pretty hard in a way, because it's like having two jobs, right? And if you've got a family to take care of and things, and you're doing all these things, it can be overwhelming. Yeah. So my new brand is essentially Donald Kent Art, and I've been using that. I just opened a Substack. I want to develop material that I can, do like paid subscription area. What I'm actually going to do is publish the graphic novel there on a kind of weekly basis,
And what's the new graphic novel
about? So it's called Militia Man, and the story goes something like this. Militia Man is America's favorite superhero, and he's the leader of a team called MAGA Force. And they are sponsored by Judeo-Christian News. And so in a twist, the team MAGA Force gets killed, but by the secret people behind the elite that are pulling the strings of Judeo-Christian News, in order to usher in the new DEI MAGA Force. They kill all the white guys, and they go in and they populate the new MAGA Force with all the Chinese, Muslim, different people from different countries to infiltrate that right-wing MAGA sphere. However, Militia Man's dad, who is actually an angel, discovers his body among the wreckage. He can't be. He's too strong. He's kind of half angel. There's kind of a Christian nationalist theme or subtext in the book. Are
you Christian? Can I ask?
Not really. Not in a traditional sense. These days I've been studying Gnosticism pretty heavily. I was a Buddhist for a very long time. That's a long story. Another rabbit hole. I'm not anti-Christian per se. I'm anti-Zionism, anti-communism. I'm anti everything and anything that kills the white race, You see what I'm saying? So again, that springs off into a million different discussions. But back to the story. So militiaman, he kind of meets up with the father, and then he reintroduces him to members of MAGA force that defected. And they were, Judeo-Christian News calls them Fash Force, because if they're not for MAGA, then they must be fascists. And it was kind of like a dirty name that they gave them. They're essentially defectors that realize that Judeo-Christian News is not what it says it is. And they're kind of like PragerU, Daily Wire, the usual shit that we know about, with, you've got like the Ben Shapiro's that are out there, corralling white people, using Christianity to keep their minds in a nice little slave plantation. So he, through a series of events, militiaman has like a number of tragedies and disillusionments that trigger him to turn into dark MAGA. So it's kind of this happens in comics where you'll have a superhero that something happens and they go dark, they become like a villain. And there's also there's this demon that they release from kind of a CERN.
Okay, well, you better save some for the readers. No,
I know.
How many pages? How many pages is it? How long have you been working on it?
I'm on like page 70 right now.
Out of how many?
About 150, I'd say.
And how long did it take to do 70 pages? Because I'm doing a comic right now too, and I know the labor, fucking labor of it.
It's
that like everyone who thinks about it, when you're doing the actual art for a comic, writing it is one thing. Writing's fucking no problem. Like, that's super easy. But like every panel, is basically a completed piece of artwork.
Right.
Every panel on every page, right? You have to get it down to that level.
Right.
So it takes it's so much work. It's very enjoyable.
Oh yeah.
But holy shit, is it a lot of work.
Yeah. I got some ways. I can't reveal my secrets, but
I thought you do it all. I thought you do it live on the stream. What's
okay? So I mean, there's three parts, right? There's when I write and storyboard it at the same time. It's a visual medium. You know what I'm saying? It's not a book. It's a comic book, right? So I draw out the scenes. I storyboard that out while I'm writing. Of course, I have the concepts, and I do have to do some preliminary outline writing. But then that's like kind of real sketchy and kind of, I know what I want. I'm not trying to make it look perfect. And then you go to the pencil phase, right? Where you got to lay out 11 by 17 something paper, bang, bang, bang. And I'm not super tight at that stage because I know that I'm going to finish it with the inking. Now, if I worked for Marvel or DC, I would have to be very, very tight.
Okay, so how long roughly to do a page at that stage? Would you say? How many
only that stage could be? I could whip
for one
that
page.
Oh, you mean like from top to bottom inking?
One page. Say to get to the finished pencil stage of one page. How long would that take you?
Obviously it depends on the amount of detail. If you're drawing a cityscape with 1,000 windows versus a close-up of the girl's face, it's going to change. But it could be anywhere from an hour to maybe
an hour. Really? That's pretty fast.
I'm pretty good at what I do, but like I said, I cut corners in that stage because I do a lot of the real work in the inking phase. You know what I'm saying? I know the techniques. I have the skill. And I'm able to kind of work. There's just got to be enough there. It's kind of like the architecture of the work of the image, and then the brush is kind of like a musical instrument, and it's kind of bouncy and flowy, and it creates textures, and it brings the art alive. So there's so many layers of different things happening with anatomy. Like I said, it's filmmaking on paper. So you're an actor, choreographer, set designer, cameraman.
Yeah, it's cool to have total control like that. Yeah, it is cool, and you can just change what you want. And it's actually more of a pain to have to work with, because in this comic I'm doing, it's different artists as well, right?
Okay.
And it's actually more of a pain to deal with someone who you've written the story, and you want them to tell it a certain way, and they're arguing with you, like, no, I want to do it this way. That's worse than at least having control.
Yeah, it's like being in a band in a sense, I have a joke. I always say that inkers are the bass players of comics.
They are. That's good, yeah.
Right?
They are. The inking is, the bottom, the what do you call it? The bottom line, the groove, or the
Yeah, it's like without the bass line, it's just not a song, and people,
yeah. There's no meat.
they don't have the glamour, but yet they're like the backbone of the band in a sense.
Yeah,
Maybe the drummer, I mean, it's the rhythm section, but anyway, it's just an analogy. They don't get all the girls, so to speak. It's more the right than the pen. So.
yeah. That was like last night when I had my. We were supposed to stream last night, but I had a black metal emergency, and I had to run out. But it was like in a little gig in a basement, and it was cool. It was super cool. But I remember after I saw the drummer in the toilet. I was like,
Okay.
"You're the drummer, aren't you?" I could. Well, they were wearing makeup at the time too, so I couldn't even tell if it was him for sure. So the singer afterward was getting all the glory, and everyone was like, "Ah, that was great."
Oh, you're
I was like,
famous.
poor drummer, the poor drummer. I'm not sure anyone recognized him or knew who he was. It was funny,
Oh,
but I gave him a good clap on the back. I was like, "You did a good job, buddy."
that's cool. And they do a lot of labor, man. I mean, drumming is so
Oh,
physical.
yeah. The drummer, if anything, is more the analogy of the ink. I would think. I must say, the drummer,
Perhaps, yeah.
is the really important, like
Yeah,
underlying
yeah,
foundation.
yeah. That's interesting. How about your book? What's your story about?
Oh, well, as well as the usual Aegeon, I decided I had an inkling to make a graphic magazine. The underlying premise of which was nothing more than to be extreme in the gore and nudity.
Heavy metal would be proud.
Yeah, but even beyond heavy metal, a little bit, like not too much. Because I remember some of those like punk rock magazines back in the 80s and 90s.
I see.
That's sort of what inspired me. Like some of the crazy underground,
Wow.
publications you'd see. Some of them just like stapled together,
Yeah, yeah,
homemade stuff. But
I
you see
get you.
cool, outrageous things in them, right?
Very,
So I
yeah.
thought I want to do something similar to that, right? But not as bad. Some of them were like actually too bad. Some of them would just be like serial killer, like pandemonium, and like awful, awful stuff.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a lot of sex and a lot of gore in a sort of heavy metalish way. Yeah. So there's like what 6, 7 different stories I wrote, and I don't know how many different artists. I'm doing 2 of them,
Hmm.
and then different artists and all the other ones. But like that's the underlying premise, and all the stories are sort of like, you know, I'm not sure. They're all pretty different.
Mm.
Outrageous kind of stories, I guess.
Okay, I got you. For an
So that's it.
outrageous.
That's the premise, and that's what I'm doing. So like between just doing having written them all, and then a lot of the ones I'm coloring too, and that's a lot of work as well. Just because a lot of them are just doing the drawing and the inks, and I'm coloring their work. But even that is like massive. Like
Actually, I always pay somebody to do the digital coloring because it's way, way, way too much work. It's way too time consuming. It's a thing. Anyway, that's that.
yeah, yeah. Every little exactly. With this is what I'm saying. Not only is every little panel like a Rembrandt,
Yes.
then every stage of this, every little part of it is a universe of pain all to itself. The inking, the coloring, right?
Oh my
going
God.
going back when you think you have it almost done, or
Mm,
whatever, and you realize you haven't left enough space for enough space for the speech bubble you need to put in, or you
boy.
realize it's not clear, and you have to add another panel and all this shit.
Well, yeah. So that's what I mean about the storyboarding phase. I'll draw the word balloons on the panel to be sure that I can fit the words in, and I have it like roughly comic book size so that I get a kind of an eyeball sense of like, okay, this works. That's enough
Yeah.
space to say that thing or what have you.
Sometimes
And
you revise it though. Sometimes you realize, and that's the other thing I find. You probably do too. Is after you've written your script, you think the script is sound, everything's good, but it's when you've done it visually that oh wait, that doesn't work the
mm,
way I thought, right?
yeah,
Then you have to go back.
right in the past 2 weeks, I guess I did a lot of like graphic novel surgery, so to speak. Where I had to cut pages in half. I had to leave whole pages out because I thought this is too much. This is slowing the pace of this scene, and it's not essential. And they do that in film all the time. But imagine the money that they're wasting, like shooting whole scenes and locations and costumes and rehearsals, and then somebody says, "Yeah, it doesn't fit." Click, and it's gone. So
Or
whatever.
even in the films where they made like 2 alternate endings and like
Mm,
totally big budget. I think
mm,
Apocalypse Now had 2 endings, and he decided which one
right,
to choose.
right,
One where
right.
he blew everything up with a bunch of napalm, which they didn't use. I don't think that must have been so expensive.
Oh God, yeah. I
And they're just like, okay, I'm not going to use that.
yeah, I don't know. There's a scene in the longer version at this like French colony in
Yeah,
Vietnam that is
Yeah,
really amazing. There's like this beautiful woman and this nudity
yeah,
and this, and I'm like, what? Oh,
and
that's so
a white survival message, no less. They kind of
huge, huge. Yes, yes, yes.
yeah.
So I mean, that stuff like that frustrates me when they cut that out. But anyway,
Yeah, it's sad when you have to let things go for sure, but like sometimes it definitely is called for.
I'm very, very sensitive to pacing. The one thing I hate the most is when people lose interest in the story. I cannot allow that to happen. I have to constantly keep the flow, keep the flow, keep the flow. So I have almost to the point where I'll have like almost every 3 pages there has to be some kind of action. At least,
Mm.
I'll read comics and it's blah 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 blah. I'm like, oh geez, like tear my eyes out. Would you please get to the freaking action? You know. And
Mm.
there's just certain writers that are just super self-indulgent, and I've worked with writers when I was starting out in comics that they'll give you a script and you're like, dude, this is literally a book. There's not anything to draw here. Like you don't understand what comics is. It's visual freaking storytelling.
Mm.
Show, don't tell. You can have dialogue, but don't, like, you understand what I'm saying? And then they
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
make
too much. Yeah, too much writing, too much.
like
Yeah, it's got to be
verbose.
like punchy
Right.
visual way
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
pared down the writing and all that shit.
Right. I mean, they lack that kind of like film director sense.
Well,
Sense of,
the one I'm doing, I don't have this problem so much because literally every page either has like a naked woman or someone getting shot or something.
right.
Yeah, so it's pretty. With the premise. You see, I have a good like solid. It sounds
Take
simplistic
my money.
and juvenile, but like that is the premise.
Take my money, meme. That's what I
Takes my money. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, it should be good. But like, actually, also I want to know about this period where you were doing caricatures and how you were making a living doing caricatures.
Well,
That's really
that's a
interesting.
fun.
Can I
That
ask
is,
you about that?
yeah, that's a fun 5 years in my life. So, simplify it. I went through one of these big life-changing experiences where everything fell apart and I had to reinvent myself. I won't get into the dirty, ugly details, but I've always wanted to try being a full-time artist, and I've been just researching many, many, many different ways in which to do that. So I'm freelancing with like, all these different clients. And then I heard of this job at a kind of local theme park for a caricature artist. And I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll check it out. It's a job drawing, and probably, I'm hanging out in the summer with girls in bikinis. What could be so bad about that? Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
So I go and like I'm a good draftsman illustrator, so I got the job like immediately. But it's not just that. There's sales. There's a lot of sales involved. There's the whole thing where once they're done, then you want to sell them a frame, and there's opening and closing. There's just a whole other world around that working in.
Right. So you're getting paid per commission, and it's just a nonstop stream of people. Oh, take my picture or do my picture.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, these summertime, like, it's a 6 month a year job. And on the sort of over the winter, what have you, the people who did this as pros would go down south and work in like Disneyland or any of those kind of like major theme parks. But for people like me, I would do like weddings, corporate parties, stuff of that nature. I would focus a lot more just on like online freelance. Excuse me. So it's a thing. It's portraiture, and I'm very good with portraiture. So I was always more into making sure that I'm creating a likeness of somebody rather than making them look retarded or something like ridiculous. But I mean, I would exaggerate stuff for fun because it's a character.
And was there ever, let me just ask this, because I'd be worried about this, because was there ever ones that didn't work out and you couldn't capture their
in the 5 years of working in that field, I had 2 people look at my portrait of them, my caricature of them, and not want it and walk away, essentially. And that's like dine and dash. That's like
that's a great percentage though.
Yeah. No. I mean 2 people out of 5 years, because like in a day you do how many drawings in a day? I mean minimum 100.
Just keep talking. I have to try and shut my door. The wind's blowing and open and banging here.
Go ahead. I'll talk. I'll take the reins here. Okay, now that he's gone, we can talk about stuff we're not supposed to say on YouTube. Woohoo! No. I won't do that. So you learn the craft of it. There's a whole thing where you got to bang it out in like 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so and not only while you're drawing, you're talking to the customer so that they feel comfortable.
Right.
That they hold still, because the people are stupid. They don't hold still for a drawing.
Did you ever pick up any girls that way?
Oh, don't even, dude. If I have, oh man, that was
a magical way to do it. Was it?
5 years. I'll just tell you, it was a great 5 years. And I don't want to I just,
okay. All right, yeah.
So anyway, the flip side of it, though, the kind of that job would have been a fantastic real world. What are those TV shows where it's like, this is the real world of these people in this situation? What's that TV called? It's a genre.
Like
reality TV show. Yeah, that would have been an amazing reality TV show, because all of the other artists were like the weirdest lefty loony wackos, and the dynamic of working with these people and how they interacted with the customers and each other was, especially from a right-wing perspective. Whoa, I was like literally on enemy territory, if you can understand what I'm talking about. This one girl comes in one year and her hair is real short and she's dressed like a boy, and everyone's talking about Charlie, and I'm like, who the hell is Charlie? Oh, remember Audrey or whatever? Well, you're supposed to call her Charlie now. And I laughed out loud in front of her face, when I heard that. Plus I'm older, I'm a father, and they're all like just out of art school, college kids. So they're annoying as shit, as you can possibly imagine. They have and they're like covered in tattoos and piercings head to toe, and they're not really good at art, frankly.
Fresh out of art school. There's one place that'll make you no good at art. It's art school.
Dude,
honestly,
literally, like, you paid how much money, you're in debt, how much, and you suck. Like, you can't. I'm just telling you, dude, it's really weird and sad. For me, on the positive side, there was I lived in Asia for 5 years, and this particular park would have like international students come on like a work study sort of a thing, where they would work at the park for the summer and get paid, and they could come to America, blah blah blah. So I met a lot of Chinese students, and I would practice my Chinese with them, and I would take them into town and
you must have had a Chinese girlfriend at the time. Is that?
I don't really talk about my private life.
Oh, okay.
And I guess I could say no, but like I had a lot of fun. I don't know what to say on that side of things, but
well, you've said it. I mean, there's no two ways around that, is there?
I'll just leave things to people's imaginations, but I'm now I got my foot in my mouth. What? Get me out of this situation here. Segue.
Yeah. So, anyways, they were coming around, and you were in between teaching English. What did you do? Portraits there too, or something? Or
no. I really was hardcore into kung fu, and Buddhism. So those were the two when I lived in Asia. And of course, learning Chinese landscape painting and kind of, I would do that style, but I would incorporate my own personal symbols, express ideas and feelings and thoughts.
And what did they think of you being there and being a Buddhist and doing their painting and stuff? Did they think you were like? Did they think it was funny, or did they take you seriously? Like,
deeply, deeply grateful. Like, because most of the Americans or foreigners that go there to teach English, they're there for an adventure, travel, fun. Some of them are deeply into the culture and they learn the language really well. But like very few of them are actually under the hood doing stuff like Buddhism, and that kind of thing. So I actually have a really amazing story, just a short story. Living in Taiwan, I'm up in the northern part of the island, up in the mountains. I worked in this small village in the mountains, and Taiwan has a typhoon season. They have like a rainy season every year. And I'm riding my little scooter back home from work one evening, and we get hit by a really, really hard, tropical storm. And I have to find shelter. It's a dangerous situation. And on the way home, there's a strip where there's all these warehouses, gigantic warehouses. Each one is like the size of a football stadium. And it's like a
Okay.
backside of an area, whatever the zoning. So I'm driving through there, and I'm almost getting knocked off my bike. It's really bad. So I pull into one of these warehouses to get out of the storm. And
Mhm.
you don't just walk into a freaking warehouse. Like, that's kind of right. I mean, it's like breaking and entering type thing. But the one door was open, and I just went in. Well, I get in there, I take off my hood, and I look into this vast darkness, and I see unimaginable amounts of old classical Chinese sculptures and arts that
Ooh.
are kind of like halfway packaged up and stuff that you would see in like a warehouse, at like 20-foot tall stone Buddhas. Just
Wow.
and unimaginable treasures of unimaginable amounts of money that you could, like, and it goes as far as the eye can see. No, I'm an artist. I'm there to study art, and I'm interested in Buddhism. So it was as if I died and went to heaven, like in a
Yeah.
certain. And my jaw hit the ground, and I'm like, you mean all this time I've been driving around here, all these warehouses have been holding these ancient treasures? What is going on?
So
So
why are they sitting in warehouses to begin with? Were they rounded up during communism or something? Or
I'm
why would
about
it be?
I'm about to tell you the story. So,
Oh,
so,
sorry. All right.
so, and now for a commercial break. No, no, no. I start just walking around. I kind of park my bike, and I'm walking in and around. And down the way a little bit, I see there's like a fire, like a little campfire type thing, and that's kind of the orangey glow is kind of dancing on the sculptures and on the walls in the dark.
Hmm.
And I sort of walk
Wow.
over to see what it is, and there's this old Taiwanese man, and he's got one of these little kind of fireplaces that you cook soup on, and a little plastic chair, and he's just making some tea or soup or something. And I think, I had better go up and like say hi. Like, I'm not here to steal anything. I'm just trying to get out of the rain. At the time, my Chinese was good enough. I could just like talk.
Mhm.
And sure enough, I did that. He didn't even like, it was so weird. He didn't even like flinch. He just kept.
You were a white guy walking into this
On
warehouse.
top of it, I know how bizarre. And he's just focused. He's just smiling and just working on his soup. And I walk up and, "Oh, excuse me, sir. I'm sorry to bother you. That's rainstorm outside. I had to come in for my safety." And he's like, "Oh, yes, come sit down, grab a chair, have some soup." And I'm like, "Oh, wow, thank you." And I sit down, and we're cold, and we're having our little herbal Chinese qigong soup. And I'm like, "So I study Buddhism and art, and I know a lot about this kind of sculpture and stuff. Can you tell me, like, what is this? What's going on here?" And so he says, "Well, do you know Chinese history?" And I basically know a good bit about it. And he said, "Well, okay, you probably know about, the communist revolution in China, in, the what do they call it? Cultural, I forget the name. It slips my mind right now, but it's
Is
the
that you mean was it the Great Leap Forward thing or whatever it's called?
thing of this nature. Long story short, when the Kuomintang, when the nationalists were being defeated by the communists, um, as they were retreating and leaving the country to move to Taiwan, they were taking everything they could with them. And
Right.
so that you can imagine the scale and the money it would cost, and the manpower it would cost to like take as much of the arts and culture and history with them, and then ship it over to Taiwan while you're fighting a war against the communists. So is really quite profound. And then these were the pieces that they were able to salvage, and they're part of kind of like the emperor's collection and all these various things
Why
that
were
have.
they not guarded? How could you just walk into it? Surely thieves would be,
Okay. Well, for starters, I'm going to kick myself later because this is like a common term, and I can't remember the damn name of it. But there was a time during Mao Zedong's rule, his reign, where he destroyed all the traditional stuff that he could. He like
Right.
Buddhism, history, Taoism, everything and anything to do with the past, emperors, etc., has to be destroyed. It's degenerate, and so these people were saving and preserving their culture from communism in that regard. And today, you and I can learn a lesson from this. This is very real shit, you know. So, like, imagine that happening in Europe, you know, and trying to like take all the sculptures out of all the churches and art museums, and then running away to some island to save it. So that's the big story. Now, why didn't anyone steal it? Well, they wouldn't steal it. It's not like I wouldn't walk into a church and steal a cross or something. It's just people just have the common sense that they know the value of such things. But then at the same time, they're not advertising it either. You know, it's not like they don't have big signs outside saying, "Hey, come and see all this booty from you know, from the Cultural Revolution." You know. Anyway, so and then he pulls out this little stone Buddha and says, "Yeah, this is from the Tang Dynasty." And again, I'm like thinking, you know, museums in New York City would like kill to have something like that. But
so you're no longer a Buddhist, is that right? Would you say? Or
so you never not if you start, it's always a part of you. And once you, I mean, how did you even get to that path to begin with? There certain things had to happen in your life, and you were able somehow to figure it out and get it. You know, like this is the nature of reality. This is the nature of the mind. And then, you know, what happened is that my father, when I was 14, had a massive heart attack. He actually died, but they got his heart working again with fibrillators. But then they told us that, you know, your father won't make it through the weekend. And after that, they said, well, that he won't make it through the week. And after that, he won't make it for 2 weeks. And after that, a month and 3 months and 6 months. That went on for 4 years. From my age 14 to 18, I lived every day thinking I would come home from school and find my father on the floor. So imagine that being your teenage years. That sucked. It's hell. It was hard, and it changed me. You know, it really, really. When you put someone that age through that kind of crucible of suffering and fear and existential angst, then you're gonna change. You know, and the kind of like
we could say that's one thing I think is the problem with liberals in that is that they don't. Many of them are just completely protected and have not had a real life experience, which sort of teaches them the underlying natural values, the harshness, potential harshness, which then allows you to accept the that, you know, the real values that are hidden there. I think it helps when someone has a bit of tragedy.
It's just kind of the nature of things. The other side of the liberal thing is that all you have to do is get a nose ring and some tattoos, and now you're special. You know, like you don't have to actually accomplish anything. You don't have to actually, you don't learn anything. You just borrow all the opinions of the cult of liberalism, you know. So it's like a fake humanity in a sense. But anyway, so, you know, that's when I started reading philosophy and religion and looking for answers, because I thought, like, we're the perfect Catholic family. How could God do this to us? You know, that was sort of my 14-year-old thinking. And so it was a very painful thing. And my parents didn't like me reading about books like that. You know, that was, you know,
books
whatever.
Like what?
Sorry?
Books like
well,
what?
I mean, I started off with just, you know, reading like, you know, I don't know, St. Thomas Aquinas and things, but that led me to Thomas Merton. If anyone into Christianity, religious figures, books, etc., you probably would know Thomas Merton. And he wrote a book called Zen and the Birds of Appetite. And so he was the bridge for me into Zen Buddhism. I mean, those things were just kind of, ooh, you know, foofy, mystical, Eastern, what's a whoosies. And I didn't know anything about it. I was still within the Western canon, so to speak. And then another hugely significant event happened in my little town. It's not little, but the suburb I grew up in. A bookstore opened up. And it's very weird because it's like, okay, this is a real traditional American dream northeastern suburb with, you know, lots of money and big rich houses. lots of white people and everything's, like that kind of deal. And then we have this weird little bookstore that has all books on philosophy, Eastern religion, and all of this kind of fascinating stuff. And I would skip gym class and go there and read books for an hour and then check the time and then run back. I'd be in the bookstore with my gym suit on, like with the shorts and the, whatever. And so I started consuming more and more and more of this information. And I discovered that Buddhism was extremely intuitive to me. I felt as if I had already known all this stuff. It was weird. I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah, it can be that way. Yeah, I don't know that it's super. I've looked into it a bit, and I do resonate with it somewhat, and like just in terms of it, I don't know, being an ancient, original spirituality and all the, it is very philosophical. That's one thing I don't like about Christianity. Pure Christianity on its own is not really. There's not much philosophy in it at all, other than turn the other cheek.
Mm-hmm. So these are obviously gigantic topics.
What eased you out of Buddhism? If you're not 100% a Buddhist now, you definitely have changed your mind somewhat. Is it? Is that fair to say? Buddhism
is probably the hardest path that you can take. It's true Buddhism. Like this is my opinion, and a Buddhist would tell you not to say this, but I'm going to say this: you're either a monk or you're not a Buddhist. You see, you don't go halfway; you go all the fucking way.
So you give up on all the material world stuff. You just ignore it.
Otherwise, but again, Buddhists don't teach that. They're like, no, there's paths for everybody. And there's the huge hundreds of millions of people worldwide that are not monks that practice Buddhism. So don't take my word for it. But I have had and have still too many mental attachments and too many kind of engrossments and karma with the world that I'm in. I will say that Buddhism saved my life on many, many, many occasions, and is still continuing to do so because of certain practices that I continue to use. I ended up going into the Pure Land Buddhism, which is a specific sect of Buddhism, which essentially, in the short layman's terms, is that this world and being in this physical body in the third dimension, it's too complex to actually become enlightened. But after death, you can transport yourself to the Amitabha heaven, where you practice with Buddhists to finally release yourself into nirvana. But I've taken the vows of the Bodhisattva, which means that I can't leave the cycles of reincarnation until all beings are enlightened. And that could take
a tall order,
unimaginable amounts of time. So I know. And I mean, that's really personal stuff that I don't go around advertising, and I don't.
Right. I drilled you on that. Yeah, you don't. But I'm curious about that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I also I didn't spend as long as you. I did go to Asia. I went to Japan for a year at one point and taught English. And it was it was interesting. And that was when I was exposed to elements of Buddhism that most people don't know, that you would see like beggars in the street, and no one would give them, they'd be in a hopeless state, and no one would give them any money for the reason that they obviously are in this state because they were bad in a previous life and they deserve it. And there was a lack of, you could see certain things about Buddhism that would be, Christianity is famous for being overly empathetic in the reverse, I guess, as well. I don't even mean to criticize. I just meant these were the about it that, to me, at what age was I then? Early 20s anyways. I had a completely, I don't know about you and how you got your job teaching English in Taiwan, but I had a completely fabricated resume saying I had an English degree, and I had a fine arts degree, which is totally fucking useless.
Wow.
I said I had an English degree and all this stuff, and I got this job, and
wow,
really high paying. Yeah, but then in the classes, I mean, even to this day, some of the students I had then I'd be friends with online, but I think it was a bit of a joke in the class. Although, generally they just wanted to speak conversational English.
Yeah.
Maybe it was different in Taiwan. I don't know. But then you would have a group class. And then I don't think that's when I would be, I mean, they were at my,
mm-hmm.
They were completely at my discretion, I guess, I mean, whether they learned anything or not, I don't know. They must have learned something, but I was not a conventional teacher. Who's this guy?
Honestly, you can get away with that a lot, though, because
Yeah.
they're just fascinated with you. You know,
Hmm.
you, I'm really amazed at the parallels that we have in our
You
experience
did
there.
the same thing, did you?
Well, I went to Japan for a year, but I went as a college student. I
All
was
right.
Kansai Gaidai Osaka, and that was with my university at the time. You pay for a year, and a Japanese student pays for a year, and you just switch places.
All right.
So, and I studied, of course, art and Zen Buddhism there. That's where I got my roots in meditation and all that stuff, and learned a variety of things. You know, so it's
Hmm.
pretty
See, I
amazing.
didn't get that ingrained in the culture. In fact, when I was there, I was in a small community of white people, really. That's mostly that I would see socialize with. There was
Mm.
the other English teachers and
Yeah, it's kind of
and
like a bubble, but you need it though. I mean, you know, if you don't speak the language fluently, it's like being on another planet, and it's
yeah.
alienating, you know. And you can only take so much of it. After a while, you got to go home, you know.
Well, I probably would have stayed actually. Only I had through the whole course of it there, even though I also had my fun. Let's say I did have a kind of a white girl back home that I was continuing to talk with online and all this, and
Right. Yeah.
that's eventually what drew me back. But then, as soon as like within a month of being back, we broke up.
Oh God.
So it was all just like, oh,
Oh boy. That's kind of the other side of all this is that like your brain in your 20s is nowhere near as developed as it is in
oh,
the
it's
decades
hopeless.
coming. So like you
Oh,
just
it's fucking hopeless.
yeah, you make choices and things based on such little
Yeah, if I
amount.
knew what I knew now, I often think if I could going back and knowing what I know now, how sweet it would be, how the things you would be just breeze through and like
That's my biggest.
even if back then you obeyed your own instinct more, I think as like back then one of the problems I was susceptible to advice from people or more than I would be now, or at least I would be. I think obeying your instinct is good often. I mean maybe it depends on your instincts, but
Interesting.
that's what
That's
I
a
think.
no, that's beautiful. That's a deep and beautiful thing, and I think that too many of us just ignore that. Like you got to be true to yourself and your instincts, your heart. You know, it has to be your guide, and I guess it's counterintuitive to people that live in fear. You know, everything is like money, 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 and I'm defined by my possessions. You know, and like my local football team is my whole personality. You know, what do you say?
Yeah, sports ball. Well,
Yeah.
actually, that reminds me because I did want to actually ask you. All this was a digression for you doing caricatures, but well, how much? Like, what was the money like when you were doing your 5 years of
Okay, so
caricatures?
it's like black and white was $15 a head, 20 for or 20, yeah, 20 for color, something like that, 10 to 20 per head. But people don't go to these parks alone. They're always like couples or families.
Yeah.
So you get a family of 5 people, and then you get, you know, that in color, it's a lot of money. And then you sell them like a $20 to $40 frame that goes with it because they're commemorating their day together, you know, that they did that thing. And you always explain to people you cannot buy this in a store. You cannot get this on Amazon. This is here and now, you know, and it's fun. Have a seat, you know, and they dish out for it. They dish out for it. So there's lines of people, you know, on many occasions. So I don't know. And like I said, if you're doing 100 drawings a day as a rough estimate, and then you figure, you know, I don't know, $100 a pop. But then there's scales in which like the more you sell, the more you make. So like they incentivize you, they'll pay you more because you get like an hourly rate and then a commission kind of thing. You see how that works?
Okay, so what generally would you be making? Like, is it fair? Like, or was it not? You know,
I
was
mean,
it
at sort of the end of the day, it was definitely a living wage, a
yeah,
decent living wage. You know,
yeah, right,
the problem with it, of course, is it was only 6 months a year, and when you start getting into the colder seasons, people aren't coming out much. You know,
yeah.
even though they're open until October or whatever. But,
Because that's part of what I wanted to ask you is, what is your overall impression of working professionally as an illustrator? I know some do better than others,
yeah,
etc. And it's hard to say, like, but like on an average, those that
here's
can make any living at it at all.
here it is.
What's
Here's the answer you're looking for. It's
okay?
feast or famine. It's feast or famine. So
Yeah, it is.
I always went through phases. I had like, several clients and that are like repeat clients. And then those people will introduce me to other people. Hey, no, I know a guy that can do t-shirts, or oh, I know a guy that can do web design, and they're bringing them into you. And then you'll have like 5 jobs at the same time, and they all want their product now, and so you're like, going crazy trying to do all this work. Money's flying in, and then the
Yeah.
jobs are done, and suddenly there's nobody, and now you're
Yeah.
like, shit. So I didn't like the inconsistency of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you balance that out by advertising yourself to do, like I say, like weddings and parties and stuff. And I can't say, like, weddings are a blast. I love, the money is incredible, and being around like horny girls that want to get married, uh, drinking alcohol is not. I don't hate it. I'm just saying I don't hate it. Okay.
I'm gonna marry an illustrator.
Yeah, and like, they're sitting down and having a private 5-minute intimate conversation with you while you're staring into their eyes, and I'm obviously I'm having some fun here with this stuff. But they were great times, and the money, the tips. I mean, plus it's a party. People are bringing you drinks. I don't drink anymore, but like at the time, it was a blast. Whereas doing
You don't drink anymore. Is it? Were you?
health issues.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I yeah, that's not a fun conversation. But anyway.
All right. Okay. No problem. But yeah, it is feast or famine. That really is the way it is. Yeah. Like even this comic this thing I'm doing now, I wouldn't be doing it except a buddy of mine did. You said earlier, take my money. He stepped forward and said, take my money. Oh, and after only hearing, like, when I say the premise was outrageous gore and nudity, and that sounds just stupid or whatever. Like, as soon as I said it, he was like, how much do you need? So it's not a bad premise.
Was it Dave Martell or what? I don't know. No, I'm kidding.
Oh,
Dave,
no.
Big Dave. I love Dave. And I've done a lot of work with Dave as well.
Is that a comment on his frugality or something? I'm just as frugal when it comes to the age on.
Well, I don't complain. I know that running a publishing company is extremely expensive, and it's a lot. It's a labor of love. But I did illustrations I did the covers for Bizarchives 1 and 2, and then I illustrated.
I remember that. Yeah, right. Yeah, and the inside. You did drawings all through them, didn't you?
In issue 2, in the second.
Oh, in 2.
All right. So, and then after that, he went like AI on the covers, and I think.
Yeah, he knows what I think about that. Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that at all. Would you say that's affected? Would you say that's affected work for you? I mean, in that sense, it did obviously, but otherwise as well. Has the excitement over AI affected your profession?
I've had this conversation with so many different people. For starters, I don't.
You're tired of it, are you? Okay, we don't have to do it.
No, let me just try to answer. I don't lose sleep over it. I think it's just a tool that we can use wisely. I think that people in the far right should be having regular meetings about and how we can learn and utilize AI for propaganda, for education, for everything and anything, and we're fools to not be using this resource. So it's, that's a bigger topic than just me making money as an illustrator.
Well, like in what way specifically? Like for what reason? Like you mean?
So, I mean, I don't know every single AI software that exists, and there seems to be more and more every day. However, you can make images, film. You can do deep fakes
but they all look kind of, it's certainly the image in the film. You can always tell as far as I can see. And it's always kind of like,
you're seeing it from the perspective of an artist, not as a normie internet consumer. Everybody knows AI is AI, but at the same time, it's ubiquitous. It's like we're starting to get saturated with it. And so it's just going to become it's already a part of the landscape, right? The digital landscape. So where is our presence in that? You see my point? I don't. So everything and anything, even to the extent that we can use it for organizational skills, we can use it for researching, educating people. Everything it's used for. Why are we not using it for our stuff? That's essentially the question.
Right. Yeah. Is there comics being made where, like, panel by panel, someone's doing it with AI? I guess maybe.
Okay, there is an actual comics maker AI, and it sucks.
Yeah.
Naturally, I tried it out, and it's like, I'm having like, like 15 fingers on one hand, or just the weird dumb things that you get. I know people that are pretty serious about it, and they get in there and they torture AI. They really, really torture it to make it come out 100% how they want, and the results are freaking mind-blowing, like gorgeous, gorgeous results.
Are they
So
really though? I always feel like there's some quality there. I know you just say it's because I'm an artist, but like, not only that it's not
it
right,
just,
just that there's
oh,
something even almost makes me feel nauseous about it. Some weird,
I share that,
unright thing.
dude. I do share it with you, but at the same time, it's like the world is, it's constantly, technology is flying on us. It's just
Well, the day they can definitely, I see an AI thing that I think, and I truly cannot tell, then
yeah.
maybe that would be, that's a
Well, I
different
mean,
story.
actually, that's the scary part, right? Is that so AI filmmaking, actually, I've heard that like actors are signing wills saying that do not resurrect my image to make
They've
me
been doing
look.
that for a while.
Yeah.
They did that with Laurence Olivier. There was a movie,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
that's what started all this. What was that movie? Some shitty computer movie, but like was long time ago. And they just took his face and like did some computer graphics to make it look like he was his head was a talking phantom in this movie, and like
Hmm.
resurrected him as though because and then that's when I first heard. That's when the issue was first raised. They're like, well, what if he wouldn't agree to be in this movie? And you got Laurence Olivier on the credits. You've
Yes,
just
yes.
plucked him out as a
So
ghost.
I mean, at the bigger real issue that we have at hand here is the issue of transhumanism, because AI is a kind of a branch of that. Now, it can be used for all kinds of fabulous reasons with research and development of various stuff, business, art, culture, education. As a tool, it's great. How it works for surveillance is absolutely dystopian and terrifying. How it can be integrated with robotics, especially the robots where they'll like, I forget the name of it, but they take human brain cells and they grow them into mini brains, and then they attach them to little robots, and they have like, I don't know, thousands of times worth of the computing power than a regular AI does. So then there's the ethical question: is, are these robots actually conscious because there's real human brain cells attached to them? Are you aware of those things? It's pretty.
Yes, but I tend to be pessimistic until there's some real. I don't tend to be, despite being a fantasist and a science fiction writer, etc. I tend to, in the real world, kind of be extremely pessimistic until I see some evidence that something truly is
Mhm.
doing such a thing. Just the idea that because you've strung it, because it's become more complex, that we're dealing with a living, conscious thing. Even the most advanced, say, AI, just for like talking to you and playing chess or whatever, seems nothing like talking to a person in so many ways. Even
Yeah.
still. And then,
My,
they say it's only going to get better and better, but like, what do they mean by better? Even in the AI visual stuff, do
yeah.
they just mean it's going to be even more crisp and like, because it's
Yeah.
crisp as you like, it's sort of
Right.
crisp and contrasty as you like, and it
Yes. Yes.
looks like it's well rendered, but still there's something not right. Like,
It,
and I
again,
don't know that that's a
in
quotient.
spirit, I'm with you on those things in general. I'm an artist. My God, you gotta, everything's organic, right? Truth and all this is human. It shouldn't be generated by computers per se. But I think I would be a Luddite if I ignored it completely and didn't engage in it in some regard. So I try to have a level of education and familiarity with it. I don't spend all day researching AI, but just enough to kind of, have an informed opinion on stuff.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it doing like purely technological things, or making like a brain like Deep Thought from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that'll like actually solve the riddles of the universe or something like that. I'll
Mhm.
be all for it there. But just like to take the menial task of visual art off our hands as though we were dying
Yeah,
to relinquish it is
certainly.
just silly.
Yeah. No, you're right.
And
It's
it's like, no.
robbing. It does rob artists of their jobs. There's no doubt. And it's just, I don't know.
What does it really though? Like I know people that people like say Dave or and many others just like get excited the fact that it's free basically and they don't have to pay for this any longer. But like I don't see people rushing out to buy AI comic books or being entranced by Maybe I'm wrong.
Mhm.
At least not yet.
Not now.
Not
I
now. Not
don't
now.
know. I don't know when or if that'll happen. And the thing is, it's like I'll just carry on anyway. You know what I mean? I think that it
Yeah.
and ultimately, I think perhaps history will look back and say like these are the guys that stuck to it. That didn't
Mm.
like kind of cop out, because that's the whole thing that's happening in the bigger bird's eye view, is that as technology does more and more and more of our work for us as people, artists, humans, we become less and less capable of doing those things for ourselves. It's just like
Yeah.
when people used to work farms and learn how to live off the land, and then they moved into the cities and worked in factories. They can no longer live off the land. They don't have those skills anymore. This is the super modern version of that. We have to retain tradition, you know, modernization, etc. There's always challenges, right? I think that's always going to be a challenge.
Yeah, that's why I think a highly technological but feudal or Roman type model civilization would be better,
That
personally.
sounds awesome.
Than
Where can I
an,
sign up for that?
yeah, yeah. Well, people whine about that. People are like, "Oh, we're heading into techno feudalism with the billionaire oligarchs and all this." I was like, "Well, if only that something like that happens, that would be instead of this, instead of this warehouse full of manual labor, industrial manual labor, creating the next plastic worthless artifact for fucking Walmart or whatever.
You nailed it. It's terrifying how much garbage is produced
It's all
that
garbage.
filters through these garbage stores for garbage people, and then the rest of it goes into a landfill, and then this rinse and repeat. It's
Yeah.
insane.
See, that's the problem when something isn't teleologically sound. It's foundationally sound. That's the same with the AI art. It's also entirely unsound as a premise to do that, and so that no matter how great it is, it's going to end somehow in either failure
Well,
or some kind of evil. Like say, because the whole point of following have
yeah,
like everybody who has a favorite artist they like. It's like
yeah,
they like them for their foibles and their mistakes and everything about them, and
yeah,
they have this. They like
yeah.
their type of art that they make. So, well, that's out the window. You can't
Mm.
follow or like an artist that's an
Yeah.
AI in any sense. It totally throws everything about it is
I
twisted
think
and wrong.
you've won the debate with that right there. I think you have
Okay, well,
actually.
thanks.
I'm sold.
Thanks.
I'm sold.
Yeah, the whole point of the venture is from the get go. Is just it's
Yeah,
wrong. It's gone. It's
yeah.
not there.
And I
So
mean,
it'll end in disinterest. If, art will just become
isn't
I don't
AI
know.
invented by the same people who are behind transhumanism anyway? I don't know. Isn't that all connected?
I don't know. I mean, AI. I don't know. Yeah, like I don't know that we can say it's specifically a political tool as of yet. It certainly will be. I don't know. It seems like I don't know who's behind it. Yeah, who can be said to be behind it? I'm not sure. I guess it's one of those. Whatever led to it. It's more like just like microchips and technology, like allowing for it, and they're experimenting. I guess. I don't think it's an intentional agenda yet. Maybe at some level. I don't know.
I'm very conspiracy minded.
Oh yeah.
And it's okay. It's like I'm not, I'm not at tinfoil hat levels, but I guess I'll put it this way. I'm whenever I sniff out like, oh, there's some alternative agenda here, if
Mhm.
I'm suspicious of that, I'm curious. I want to look behind the curtain. I want to see, I want to follow the popcorn trail and do the math, connect the dots. There's different people on this kind of spectrum of like people who don't believe any damn thing, no matter how much information you show them, to people that are like sniffing fumes of like wackadoo conspiracy theory hoopla. And
Oh, so
some
yes, some of it gets just
you got to kind of get more balanced in there. But I'm
yeah.
a little, I lean more into the conspiracy stuff because I'm just, this is fun and curious. It's
And
interesting.
what's kind of what apart from some of the obvious ones that are what's one of the wackier ones that you would believe them?
Wacky. That's funny because I don't. So here's the deal. This is my approach. I'm really interested in ufology. I've been studying it
All
for
right, yeah, yeah.
almost 20 years.
Have you? Okay.
And it crosses over heavily into politics, deep state, black ops. It crosses over heavily into the paranormal. There's there's even to some extent like a biblical frame that you can enter that field with. There's a guy on YouTube called Dark Journalist X. I
Ooh.
recommend everybody look him up. I know the name is like woo, but like he's very, very, very down to earth, even though the name is very X-Files. And his style is kind of funky and stuff, but he's all hardcore black and white data. Everything's totally data driven, and he connects all the dots about how the government, the relationship between UFOs and the government. Let's just put it that way. So that's a ginormous can of worms that you can go down that rabbit hole. That's something I'm very, very deeply interested in, and
Right.
but here's my approach, though, to answer your question. You got to be like a lawyer / detective. You have to go at this saying, okay, I'm not going to know all of this because I don't work for MK Ultra, or you know what I mean. I'm not, in some kind of Zionist cult that gets trillions of dollars the day before 9/11 or something, but instead I'm gathering, I'm mining information. And then like an archaeologist, you dig up all kinds of different artifacts, and then you lay them out and you say, how are these things connected? And then when you find enough information that says, okay, these things indicate this reality, I can say beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law that I believe this to be true. And
you would say that about the UFOs, would you?
Oh my God, that's not even a question. That's so.
Okay. So what can I ask for? Like, what's one of the most convincing bits of evidence that you would say that?
Well, after 20 years, I've seen like, God, maybe tens of thousands of bits of evidence of things that are very
other than accounts, personal accounts that are, can't.
I have actually seen UFOs myself. That's a whole.
Actually, I did too.
Okay, that's cool. That might be fun to talk about.
Well, I just saw. I was with the wife. We were in Canada, and it's summertime, and it was definitely way, way, way up. Couldn't be drones or anything. It was fast. Stopped, circled, did a circle over our heads a couple times, and went on really fast. It was like a satellite. Way.
Definitely, that's definitely something.
Whatever it was. It was like, and to this day, she's also an extremely skeptical person, and she still talks about that. Like, what the hell was that?
A lot of the stuff that I saw, and I mean, haven't seen that many things, but only one of them is 100% definitely real, that I know there's no question about it. And that particular one was a metallic orb that flew over my house, and I saw it in broad day.
Really?
Yeah, and it was about the height of like a helicopter. Like how helicopters, they're not way, way, way up.
Okay, well that's pretty.
And I was
like an orb.
I mean, and it was just really steadily moving along at a moderate speed, and made no sound at all. And
that is pretty okay.
West, right. And when I saw it, I was like,
and it couldn't be any kind of helicopter or drone or any of that.
I mean, it's a sort of it's hard to judge the actual physical size of it, but like it, and it's a ball. It's not like a box or something, but I'd say it's like roughly the size of a car or something like that. But if you could take a car and turn it into a sphere, that's the size of it. And I had already seen dozens of videos of this particular phenomenon, so I was already familiar with it.
Yeah.
The stuff that fascinates me are what are currently being called interdimensional beings, and that I don't think anybody knows what they are. So it's just sort of a theory. So the name itself, it could be totally wrong, but based on the theory of it, this sky phenomenon, they look like organic. If you could imagine looking at it through a microscope at bacteria, and you know how they kind of change, they morph shape. They don't have one shape. They just kind of gooey, amorphous blobs, right? Well, it's something like that, only it's larger and it's way up in the sky. And the second thing is it's metallic, like a liquid metal. And then on top of that, there's different colored lights inside of it that kind of, go on and off. And This stuff's bizarre. It's really beautiful, to be honest with you, but it's really, really weird. And you
Yeah.
just can't take your eyes off it when you see stuff like that. It's like, what in God's name is that?
Someone, Mr. Monty Fontaine says the Malaysian Airlines video was very interesting. I didn't see that. What's that one? Do you know what that is?
Oh God, yeah, that's a big one. The most recent data that I heard about that is that that's actually human technology that's been backward designed from alien tech. So I can't confirm that. I'm just, again, the thing I'm looking out for mostly now is psyops, is counterintelligence. That's the thing. It's kind of like that's the AI of the UFO world. You know how you can look at an AI image and go, that's fake. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
gotta build your eye for saying, that's counterintelligence. That's not real UFO intel. But essentially, you can easily Google this stuff. It's an airplane took off from Malaysian Air, and
Mhm.
it's cruising around, and then there's these three small metallic orbs that come out of nowhere, and they circle around it, and they create this kind of pattern, and then there's this bright light, and the plane disappears, and it's gone, and it's never been heard of since. So that's a kind of
And that's verified. Oh, okay, I must look that up. All right.
it's like you can look it up. Anybody can look it up. Whatever. So yeah, I would say it's verified, because like when an airplane disappears, that's like that becomes public information. You know what I mean?
Mm.
The the psyop of it, and what people are talking about in the UFO community, is to watch out for what Werner von Braun warned of on his deathbed. And then he said, like, beware of the fake alien invasion. And so that would be, people who are high up in the ufology world say that somewhere around 50% of the UFO sightings are actually made by our government. Our government has already backwards designed this technology and has all of this stuff. So they could at any time, create a fake alien invasion, which would then send the world into a one world government lockdown where, all your rights are taken away, and we're going to have to fight these aliens. And it's just like, how, like, Israel created Hamas to create a war so that they could take over Palestine. So take that, but expand it into UFOs. Like, okay, we created these fake UFOs that are attacking these different countries. So we now have to work together as a whole planet, and therefore, everyone's on lockdown. It's like COVID times 10 million hits of acid.
Hmm.
Yeah, I know that's.
Well,
Sorry?
that's, I don't know. I understand the view, and I will look up some of these things a bit more. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Yeah, and like the interdimensional thing. I don't know how anyone can. I saw some of those videos that were just claiming to be, and definitely there was some hoaxy stuff there going on there.
So
some of the ones I saw.
every time I talk about this, I talk about it. That's why I said the thing about being a detective. Like, here's the evidence that exists. This is what I'm saying. Not, I believe in it 1,000%, and you have to. That's not who I am. I'm just simply saying this exists. This information exists. So you can, and people must be skeptical. Like, you can't just take it. You can't just
something like that. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, even though I saw something myself, I would definitely, it's the type of thing I wouldn't venture to believe. I wouldn't allow myself to believe unless I had something I felt was irrefutable.
Yeah.
It's just too. Even though there's lots of funny talk, and there is lots of, and even seeing something myself that I couldn't explain. But even God knows what it actually was.
I think another dimension of what's interesting about this field are the people who claim to channel aliens and then talk about, like, they these aliens are trying to speak to us directly through these channels. And the word alien is kind of, even that's a bit funky in the sense of like if we, let's say, like, there were people who, let's say, imagine that our solar system were colonized, and there were people that lived in different planets, and someone calls you from Mars and says, hey, what are you doing this afternoon? Let's get together. You wouldn't call him an alien. He's just a dude that lives on Mars. You know what I'm saying? So
All right.
there's a lot of filters. There's a lot of filters that you have to sort of. And I'm suspicious of some of these people. There's a guy. Um, his name's slipping my mind. I'm notorious for forgetting names when I'm right in the middle of a show. But
Names and dates. I'm the worst. Yeah, I always have them.
I'm
It's the
so
hardest thing. Yeah.
I'm a savant in that way. If I had my people in the chat, they'd be right there helping me out. That's like my biggest Achilles heel. But
If
anyway,
only these sons of bitches would ever help me out. Nobody ever helps me out.
let's quick say hi to Chief Moody in the chat. Oh, Hippocratic Oath just showed up. Courtney Brown, no, that's a good guess. He's bald. He looks Jewish. He actually is an actor by trade, and he's older now. Anka, I think his name is. And he not Greer. Greer is he runs the Disclosure Project. Anyway, he channels an alien called Bashar, Bashar.
Oh, channels like in through his and he starts talking like him.
Yeah, like he'll go into a little meditation and then, hey, welcome, I am Bashar from another universe.
Right, yeah.
And
I have to say, I really do not believe those guys.
okay. So again, like counterintelligence, is it like one of these deep state setups, or is it Daryl Anka? Thank you. That's exactly the guy. So, there's a documentary on him, and they have these like brain scientists that do scans on his brain during the transmission, and they show his brain under whatever the MRI or something, and there's very, very strong, unusual electric patterns going on inside his brain while he's channeling. Now, could somebody have paid doctors to say this, or paid actors in lab coats? I mean, you got to be that skeptical, But then there's even the question of what's called exopolitics, which is what's the freaking agenda of these aliens? Maybe if they're real and they're communicating with us, why? Like we're just ants to them.
See, part of the problem for me is that, like, and I could be wrong, of course, but like, I've always, ever since I read Stanislaw Lem, one of my favorite, possibly my favorite science fiction author, and he was an Iron Curtain Polish author. He did Solaris and other very extremely clever. If you read his actual stories and short stories, incredibly clever.
Cool.
And he always described the premise that if you look at life on Earth and the fact that all of us have a same genetic ancestor, if you go far back enough in our timelines, you and me both, and I've written this into Aegean stories as well, we have the same grandparent who's basically, supposedly algae or something, right? And then we are every form of life on this planet, from trees to bacteria to us, have a common parent. So if life on one planet can be so varied and so odd, imagine the utter unimaginable strangeness of something from another planet. It wouldn't be. I would hesitate to think you could even communicate at all at any level, or you know what I mean. Like that's a factor in this kind of UFO stuff. Someone says something. There's a couple things here. I don't know. Maybe they said. Vex Peril says forbidden tech or demons like Valley and Keel concluded. Do you know what he's talking about?
I'm trying to find it in the chat.
It's just up there a little bit. Vex Peril.
Interdimensional.
I think it's some interdimensional demon thing. It's probably, I don't know.
So
Grassman Research Facility says PM made it, and as if to say what? I hope I didn't post the time as AM or something. Or what does he mean by PM? What does that stand for? Post-menstrual? Pre-mort?
Okay. One
made it. Whatever.
Within the ufology world, the talk of dimensions and multi-dimensional this and that is part of the whole concept that you have to know that. And it's like if you wanted to do physics, you would have to learn math. You have to know about like multi-dimensional concepts in order to sort of approach this whole world, this whole field. And the general, like I give you kind of like the end of the movie. Here's the okay, here's the end, here's the big spoiler. Okay. So it's believed, the narrative is that, Earth is kind of being visited because it's going through this transformation whereby the good aliens want us to evolve and be able to join the intergalactic community. And then the bad aliens don't want that. They want to continue to harvest our loosh. They want to.
Or what?
You know what? You don't know what loosh is? Loosh? No,
No.
I'm sorry. That's a Gnostic concept where demons they basically feed off of our suffering, the energy of our suffering. It's
Okay.
the other rabbit hole. But anyway, to continue to keep Earth as a sort of a slave planet. There's so many. This thing's so complicated. It's hard to talk about intelligently because you'd have to. It's like having to read 10 different books just to say one sentence. You got to have all this background information. But so I think people can conceive of the idea of other dimensions. You look at so a third dimension person going through a second dimension world.
Okay, but that's the type of thing you really need just to propose that someone's traveling through dimensions, and that's the reason. Or, you really have to provide a lot of evidence for something like that, not just like someone's account or Alex Jones or somebody.
So
you know what I mean? Like for me.
Oh, okay. Check it out. For you, if you had done 20 years of research, do you think you would have come up with something? Of course you would have, right? You see what I'm saying? So like you got when you put
it depends. If it's all just accounts of people's claims, like
Right.
how would you even get evidence for such?
Why would you continue researching it for 20 years if you didn't find claims and evidence that were compelling enough to keep looking? You know what I'm saying? So as they say, the truth is out there. It's just that I don't know if we'll ever know. I don't know, where this is all going. I lean towards the concept that something's coming and the powers that be are trying desperately to warp it and like control the narrative of that, like they do everything else. You know what I'm saying? So there's been a drastic increase of UFO sightings across the planet in the past several years. Now, when everyone in the planet has a phone with a camera, you can't control that. You cannot stop people from shooting it and putting it up online. And then this the instances of this happening more and more and more. So now you got to have this. Okay, what does the government say? Okay, yes, UFOs are real. And then, but they're called drones, and they're from China, and blah, 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 blah. So I can't give you a straight answer, because I'm not. It's just not out there, unless you work with work at Area 51 or something on the sub level B or something.
Well, I mean, for myself, I did not see enough even for me to look into it beyond. Like, I remember even when Tucker Carlson started going on about UFOs. It was around the time he also started talking about demons scratching him when he was sleeping.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe he's just, to me, that's just like he was looking for, he kind of gave it up and he kind of walked away from all that. Like, I don't know.
You have to ask why would Tucker Carlson talk about that on camera? You see, that's how I look at it. Is try to say like a guy.
I think he's credulous in certain ways. I think it was part of it. I even think at the time, it's hard to say. Yeah, I mean, things are.
That's
so
my point.
different.
So that's what stimulates me is the question why. Like, am I going to find the answer? Maybe not. Maybe a very low chance of finding the answer. But I'm really, really driven by the curiosity of it, and that's a large part of kind of why I'm into it. I'm not here to change anyone's mind or preach anybody or anything. It's simply a hobby, I guess. It's
Well, I saw someone today, someone I follow on Twitter. Who was it? I think it was Sean Lennon. He was like, he said the only thing. What did he say? Something like, the only thing more or less the gist of it was the only thing more unacceptable than aliens existing is that they don't exist or something like that. As in, we're alone in the universe, and that's also pretty crazy.
To me, that is like way
hard
to believe that we're alone. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you have to admit there's no direct evidence, is there? Unless right? It is crazy as well, but it's also possible in a crazy way.
Here's my thing: start researching this and come back to me in 20 years, and we'll talk about it.
But there's no direct broadcast. There's no scenes in the nothing you can. If there was a scintillating galactic empire or something,
if you're not looking for
evidence.
If you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it. You know what I mean?
So it's very okay. Well, I don't know. We'll sort of agree to disagree on that one, I guess.
That's perfectly
And
fine.
we're way off whatever topic we're supposed to be talking about. We're talking
Oh
about
my
art.
gosh, what kind of a show is this? Jeez,
I don't know. It's random shit talk, and that's what I got. Like every now and again, I get grief about it. Like even the last one I with Shrek I did, and actually on this one with and other ones I get it. I get bitch people commenting and bitching that like, oh, you're always cutting people off, and it's always like rambling in different directions. And I'm like, well, this is just the way it is. I'm not a professional interviewer. I'm just here to like shit talk and have a chat as though we're like sitting in a pub, I guess, or you know what I mean, like.
Dude, it's totally cool. Like it's totally normal. Like,
Yeah, I think it's fine. But I never set out to to be fucking Lex Fridman, that
wow.
fake and that fool. Imagine like, yeah, I'm not a professional interviewer or anything. I'm just here to talk, like, right. And I don't mean to cut people off and go in weird directions, but it's better that way, I think.
I think that's where the gold
we
is.
still hit all the points we want to more or less make. If you want to say anything, you feel we miss anything, you can always.
Well, I mean, there's really a huge amount to talk about regarding everything. I mean, there's my just to give you an example. So most nights I'm doing live streaming of my graphic novel Militiaman, and it's a nice cozy chat. You know, people for some reason people love watching me draw, or not just me, but anybody. Like just watching someone draw something, you know, bring life to a blank piece of paper is kind of amazing to the average person. So it's just enjoyable. I'll put on some tunes on the background, and I just go stream of consciousness. I just like, oh, these are things that have been happening to me today. I've been talking a lot about like Donald Kent lore, a lot of my personal background stories, just because it's your life. It's what I know, you know. But then there'll be topical things. Oh shit, that thing happened in the news today, and what a psyop or what a sellout or who knows, you know, maybe let's talk about like how is the Overton window moving? What does this really mean? And I've got really intelligent people in my community that bring a huge amount of data and information in there. And so it's just like a kind of a great meeting of the minds where people are just going, but also having fun too, you know, joking around, goofing around. So it's a lot like this. It has a similar vibe, only like imagine if on your screen and my screen, people could see us drawing our comics, you know? So
yeah.
That like wow,
I don't know that I could do. I'm not sure I could do it like you. I don't think I would be like. Maybe I could like just to know I was being watched. I think don't you ever? You must make mistakes, no? And like, are you just?
I'm not perfect, but like, and I think once in a while I'll make a fudge here or there, and I know I've got to go back to Photoshop and clean it up or something. But I don't know. I've just done it so long that it's just normal to me. I don't know what it is.
All those years doing the street art, you'd be well used to just having someone sitting over your shoulder, anyways.
Pretty.
I wouldn't really be
massively. That's actually a funny thing. I'm not that guy. I'm not nervous about drawing with people looking over my shoulder or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how to put it, but it's kind of like this is my world and you're just in it. You know, like I have a lot of confidence in myself. I'm very comfortable in myself. And I like that people enjoy that, just the show of my existential energy. And I just like draw and I react, interact, I communicate, make jokes, try to make people comfortable. It feels good. You know, it's in a way, it's a type of defense mechanism though, because especially if you're out in public, you know, especially in a place like a theme park, there's a lot of drunk people. There's a lot of POCs and various people that, you know, I mean, you know, there are people from the ghetto that are there. You don't know what you're dealing with. So you have to disarm them with kindness and friendliness and cracking jokes and everybody's happy. Yay, you know. So you do enough of that, and doing your live stream out of your studio with your buddies is nothing. You know, it's just like the joy, you know. But anyway, the point is that that's my kind of platform where we talk about all kinds of politics. There's quite a lot of politics in my stream. I don't know why my stream isn't shut down yet. I have had several strikes. I mean, YouTube has shut down certain videos, and I'm on like.
Did you get demonetized? I only got demonetized for not that long ago, actually. And it was for a Ted Kaczynski video. Maybe it was an excuse.
Oh, that's interesting. My belief is that and I don't want to go too deep into this for obvious reasons in a second, but I think the feds are allowing me to be up as like a kind of a lightning rod for people that want to watch, they want to follow people in the political sphere, and just kind of keep their finger on the pulse of like what people are doing and talking about. But that could be stupid megalomania. Like I'm small potatoes. I'm not Joel Davis or Patriot Front or some kind of people who are out in the streets doing stuff.
Yeah.
Who knows though? We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you like I don't know, did you want to talk about how you're about the White Art Collective at all, or no? As that
Yeah, certainly. That's a very, very positive part of my life. It's a golden age, to be frank with you. So try to imagine, you've become politically enlightened. You saw past the veil. You figured it out. You're like, oh my God, it's white genocide. And like and you're an artist. You can create inspiring works of art and music, and you have a background in education, so you know how to communicate and make content and blah blah blah. And then in addition, you've got a background working with people of color, working with Democrats and liberals, and you've been burned a lot. We've been inside the system of the state, so all that, and you combine all of that together. And then I heard about, somehow on the internet, I don't remember where or when, but I think probably on Twitter, I had heard about the White Art Collective, and I just rushed to it. I like flew to it, just crashed down the door like, hey, I'm here, let's get going, And so of course I became really close friends with all of the core founding members. Jeff Winston, who created the White Art Collective, told me explicitly, like, you are a founding member, and as such, like, here is your title. Like that was kind of bestowed on me among the other group of core members, right? And we hosted shows. We were on each other's shows. We made new shows. We did all kinds of stuff that Jeff was pumping out, many shows a week. And then a lot of that had to do with the community, because he would have like sort of, okay, on today's music program, we're going to feature new art from people in the art collective community. And imagine that every week there's new music to show. That's a lot of people putting out music, for our cause. It's astounding, And then, guys like me, visual arts dudes, And then, this is where Nullis came in, and he kind of cornered the poetry niche. I co-hosted his Conversations with the Wind show for many, many episodes. He co-hosted my Imperium Art show for all of the episodes. The Imperium Art Project is a playlist on my YouTube where I thought, the arts and media are a weapon our enemies use to control our narrative, to make us believe in that whites are inherently evil and that we should all die off. And all the many ways in which they do that, by replacing characters with white characters with black characters, or feminism, or it's ubiquitous. It's this kind of echo chamber that we all live in. And so if our enemies recognize the power of the arts to demoralize, confuse, disempower, all of that, all the shit that they do to us, then we have to also recognize to grab a hold of those arts and reclaim our narrative, create a new narrative, to bring ourselves together, to unify, to remoralize each other. And that's been my mission, and it will continue to be my mission. And so I'm not, how do I say, like when Jeff passed away tragically, the whole organization was in obviously a gigantic quandary, and I tried to sort of take the torch and move on. I think that as a community, it mostly has gone on to like Telegram, and it's kind of broken up into smaller communities, smaller pieces and parts, and that we don't have the totality and the unity that we did under Jeff. The man is a legend for what he's accomplished in our culture. But anyway, I'm still out here kind of, holding the torch and moving forward. I had my own problems. I think I had mentioned, my mom passed away. I had some health issues, and I'm trying to make a comeback.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Jeff was a great guy for sure. I did many shows, several shows with him, and he was a good guy.
So the Imperium Art playlist was my, how do I put this? I wanted to create an academic resource of the dissident right claiming its own art and culture. And so I got as many big influencers and creators that I could to come on the show. Nullis had written this kind of like Imperium Art manifesto, and we would go on there and say, what are your thoughts on creating an art form that is for the dissident right, that is for white identity in the time of white genocide, so that in history people can look back and say, oh, here's the documentation of those people in that time talking about what they're doing. You see what I'm trying to say? So being an art teacher, I know all about that. They've done that in previous art movements. You've got the Dadaists, you've got the Surrealists, you've got American abstract expressionism. You go way back. There's groups of artists that had aesthetic philosophies, and they put together manifestos and groups, blah 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 blah, history, something, and then now we have these great resources that people can teach in universities. Well, I thought I'm going to be the guy who puts that together. So I had Mark Collette, Richard Spencer, Fiore Midyard, Josh Neal, Jeff Winston, on and on and on, like lots of some big and some small creators and etc. in there. A lot of the artists, of course, from the White Art Collective. And so it remains to be a sort of an academic, historic resource. And I strongly recommend people go check that out at my YouTube.
Yeah, and what was I going to say to you? Oh, I got lost there.
Sorry.
Wait, that's another question. What?
People.
What was I going to ask you? Shit.
Imperium Art.
Completely vacated my mind at the last moment there. White Art Collective. Shit. Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna have to pack it up soon, though. That's for sure. It's going on 11 here. I got an early start tomorrow, but shit. What was my last? I had another question for you. God, I hate when
that happens. I know.
Yeah,
but what, something to do with the manifesto, or the guests, or the academics, the history?
Oh, I can't remember now. Shit, it's totally gone. I'm getting bad for this. I'm getting old, and just like thoughts come into my head, and they're gone. And
right, that's the worst. That's the worst.
It is the worst. Yeah. It'll come back to me. But yeah, no, that's good. So you're carrying on the torch of the the thing, Hippocratic Oath says, yeah.
Nice. He's so
you're carrying on the torch of the White Art Collective, so that's good.
Yeah.
And so in terms of like, and you being allowed on YouTube, I think now you can get away with more than before. Like, I don't know, I seem to have gotten away with a good bit too.
I hope so.
And I'm not sure that they care. But I wonder if part of it is doing it live or something. No, maybe that wouldn't. Maybe.
Well, here's the thing: like, I'm not calling for violence. I'm not calling for any kind of. I will point out all the things that our enemies do, and I will say that we have to collectivize against this. I don't say how per se that we should do that. Number one, obviously, is just like steer clear of anything regarding violence. That's just it. And I don't, sort of being a Buddhist, I'm not sure I can call myself a Buddhist, but like, you just can't, being someone who cares about spirituality and various things of this nature. It's not, violence obviously is only really the choice that you make it to defend yourself,
Well, I can tell you just yesterday I got booted off Facebook after years and years and years of using it. Although my channel's still there, my account I was using for it is gone now, because I posted a meme.
Yeah.
And supposedly they're more like, forgiving about this kind of thing. It was just like a clipping from an old newspaper. It was a joke thing. Just saying about mail order brides, brides in Vietnam, whatever. It was basically just that. And whatever they said, it was kind of humorous, as in,
they canceled your account for that.
Yeah,
So
because they said I was promoting sex trafficking, even though it was like just literally a clipping from like an '80s newspaper, and it was just
the
like a joke about the fact that you could
okay,
advertise,
I
"Come
would
by
love
me, I'm a bride."
I'd love to see a photograph of the blue-haired fat girl that is in charge of watching your page and who
Oh,
decided all on her own that I don't like that and I'm going to take you down, because
yeah.
that's the staff of Facebook. I'm not even kidding. I mean, this is stuff
I
I've
know.
already. So
I
check
know.
this out. I've been in non-consecutively. I've been in 3.5 years of Facebook jail. I've had, I'm gonna say now, six Facebook accounts deleted. So over the years, I'm not going back anymore because like I hate Facebook. It's totally boomer tier garbage. It's just
I had that account this whole time, and it's like,
really,
so it's funny. Yeah,
that's
until now. Yeah, yeah,
and
until
for
now.
that reason too. See, it just shows you how like flaky the whole thing is, you know.
Yeah, it's very flaky. I know.
I think it's great for business. I think if for some reason I get some other sort of business going, maybe I can make an account under a fake name and do business. But otherwise, it's just, to me, like, I'm not interested in that. I want to be where the politics is, where the culture is, I want to be on the edge of what's happening, you know, and that's
Yeah, you
usually
want to be edgy. You want to be on the edge. Yeah,
living
it
on
is.
the edge, man. Yeah.
Well, this is where a lot of creativity goes into, like, since we're forced into this, first of all, into this online world, and then also forced into forming ourselves politically to defend ourselves, whether you want to be or like to be or not. Everyone really is forced to. You end up forming an opinion, and also obviously the algorithm and etc.
Yes.
only baits your opinion more, I suppose, as well. But
Right. And then the vast amount of people who say, well, I'm not into politics or I don't want to be in politics. Well, that just gives permission for your enemies to take over. You know what I mean?
mm,
It's like you, whether you like it or not, you're in politics. You have to, if you don't engage, you lose.
yeah,
You're choosing to lose. You know, you have to get involved
yeah.
in one way or another. So there it is.
So how much do you have left in your graphic novel? Do you think before you're done?
I'm on like page 70, and I think there's about 150 pages.
So how
So,
long is that? Like
gosh.
another few months?
So yeah. So I'm doing all this while doing a full-time job and doing a number of other things, recording my music, and you know, it's I my this is the problem with my work, is that I can't get enough out fast enough. You know, I need to have AI duplicate me and like make my pages go faster or something.
Yeah, me
But
too. It's laboriously slow. It's painful
yeah,
how slow it is.
yeah, yeah. So I can't answer that, and I don't even think about that. Which is why I want to put it out page by page on my Substack. So, you know, first issue is free. Click here to subscribe, monthly pay, whatever. And then every week I'll pop up like maybe 2 pages or more. And then people can read it weekly as an ongoing series. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How does that sound?
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
All right. All right.
So I didn't know. And the music, where are you posting this music you're doing?
Well, at my YouTube, there's already a music
Okay.
playlist on my
Oh
YouTube.
shit.
And
Okay.
a lot of those are just, they're not like, one of the songs is a collaboration with a guy who goes by the name George Freud. Um, I just chatted with him on Telegram. I said, man, shoot me some more music. Like, he writes the music, I write the vocals, lyrics, and then I throw together a video. And it's really fun. It's kind of like synth wave stuff. Today, you can go check it out, and most of the other stuff is just me recording on my laptop, which is like really low quality, but you still get, it's good enough where you can enjoy it. And then I just hooked up with this fabulous guy locally who, he's like a pro music producer with his own studio. He's
Mm.
worked in the industry for like 20 years, and he loves my music and just wants to record with me, and I don't pay him anything. So, you know, once a week I'll head over to his studio and lay out some tracks, put some bass and drums, harmonies, guitar solos, and then, you know, I will be looking for people who do video, because that would help a lot if I could find somebody that could make some
Yeah, that's
video.
the hard part. I got some music I recorded for someone's making a video game for Aegeon, and I recorded a bunch of music, and I think it's pretty good. Maybe I'll show it to you. But I just recorded it with this mic through this laptop, and it
Please,
sounded
yeah,
pretty good.
dude,
That's all.
totally share it with me, man. Yeah, yeah. I
Oh,
feel like
really?
we're like brothers from another mother. Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
well, creative types, I guess, whatever.
And plus,
John Gora says, try animation now. That's a nightmare of tediousness. Yes, that is
well,
the one step beyond comics that is more tedious is animation. Yeah. Probably
yeah,
you've tried that. I've tried it too.
I don't do animation. I mean,
Oh,
I recognize the reality of like, you think comics is hard. Oh, holy crap.
yeah, that's another step. That is another step. He's right about that.
Yeah.
But, comics in their own way, it's different. You do have to, you always think you can get away with this and that, but the more that each frame is perfect, and not just each frame has to be perfect, but the page itself as a whole has
Yeah.
to look right, and
Mhm.
also where it begins and ends
Yes.
has to have a sense of, especially if it's on a 2-page spread, there must
Mhm.
be a certain sense of completion to that,
I'm
as well
really,
as there's so many compositional and story elements and everything.
yeah,
Like,
I'm super plugged into that. Like, I don't honestly think I'm the greatest illustrator. I'm okay. I'm good enough. I'm expressive. People like my work. My fans like my work more than I like my work. But how I think I make up for it is in really, really good page layouts.
yeah,
Because it is storytelling at the end of the day. And once you get the word balloons in there and you're following the movement of the flow of the story, you're going to go on an amazing ride. It's like watching a movie, but it's also kind of like listening to an epic album, like Dark Side of the Moon or Lamb Lies Down on Broadway or something, where you're taken on a journey. And the way that the page is laid out, the relationship of the panels and how they interact with the story, the camera work, the text, it's an art form that I'm in love with. It's so amazing. And so when you get to do an action sequence and you want it to have like maximum impact, uh it's an art form. I don't know, I'm totally enamored with it. So like,
yeah, me too.
to,
You get in that world and you don't want to leave it. Like, in
yes,
fact, that's why my I'm supposed to be working on an episode of Aegeon at the same time, and I
yes,
sort of am, but I can't, like, I get into a mode. Say if I'm doing music or I'm doing comics or I'm doing writing,
yeah,
it's absolutely a mode, and you can't just switch between them so easily.
no,
You have to like focus and get one done and then move on. So it's kind of like
I know.
the comic, because especially because that buddy of mine gave me the money for it. I have to
Oh well,
I have
there's
to get it done.
okay, there's that little thing right there.
Yeah, the money
But
business. Yeah,
like I
but
always,
it's almost 11 o'clock. I really do have to go.
I'm sorry.
So
Okay,
you got any concluding remarks or anything like that?
UFOs are real. Uh,
Okay.
Come and
Sasquatches too, or no?
subscribe.
They're on about Sasquatch there, so I wonder.
Definitely real. Definitely real.
Yeah.
What else can I say? Subscribe to my Substack and look for Donald Kent Art. My website is kent-art.weebly.com. I'm on Telegram. I'm on YouTube. Definitely, YouTube is the place to go, though. That's where you're actually going to see the magic, join the community, enjoy everything that I have to offer while I'm allowed on there. So, and I
Well, you've
want
been
to.
on all the time, and you do it almost every night. So I don't think they're going to get rid of you,
I think
unless
so.
you
Yeah, my
mean
number. No, my numbers are going up and up, so it's quite wonderful. And
but
you having me on the show helps all that as well. I'm extremely grateful. I'm glad we finally connected
no
because,
problem.
like I said, we're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. We should do it again. Yeah, anytime.
Totally, dude. Totally. I think I actually am going to have you on my show. What the heck am I
Sure, yeah,
talking?
sure.
And
Yeah.
I want to feature your art. I want to see as much of your art and music as we can see.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I don't often get to do that because I don't really focus on it so much. Yeah, sure.
All right.
That'd be good. That'd be
All
great.
right.
Thanks.
Beans. Well, thanks again, and thank you to everybody in the chat. Thanks for my guys coming over here as well. It's an honor to serve you guys in this community and create art that is uplifting and inspiring and tells our story. So thank you. I'm proud to be able to do that.
Yeah. All right, chickens. That is the end.
All right.
Goodbye.
Sayonara.
Thank you to Donald Kent, and
Okay.
we'll hear more from him soon.
All right.
Okay,
Cheers.
bye.